Okay, and admit all. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. We have quite a large turnout this afternoon. Please remember to remain respectful. Try and keep your comments in the chat during the session. And, you know, don't unmute your mic unless you are like requested to or given permission. Other than that, let's get on with this session. First of all, I would like to welcome our honored panel of speakers before us. Aries Jones, who is the wellness coordinator for CityTech, as well as Tasha Rhodes, our wonderful registrar.
Hi, everybody.
Anita, please correct me if I'm saying this wrong, Haramarak, Associate Director of Financial Aid.
That's correct. Nice to meet everyone.
Stephen Trowbridge, Campus Security Director.
Hello all.
And also, Luis Venegas from the Office of Administration.
Hi,
And
everybody.
I thought I saw Sandra Higgins in here, the Director of Financial Aid.
I'll be speaking on behalf of Ms. Sandra Higgins.
So how are we all doing?
I'm good. Thanks for asking.
That's good to hear. Oh, looks like we have a few surprises to this. Also, I would like to welcome Dean Faxquez Ortiz, the Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences, as well as Dean David Smith, the Dean of Professional Studies. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hi, Professor Thomas.
Hi.
Happy to be here.
I'm glad to hear. Let me just find you and pin you to the panel. I didn't get a verification email, so I didn't know whether you'd make it, but this is definitely good to see that you are both here and participating. This should be one awesome discussion. And I found you. And we are definitely expecting Dean Shields later on this afternoon. So this should be good. So let's start with short introductions. Starting with the first person on my screen from top to bottom, Aries Jones. Hi.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Aries Jones. I'm the coordinator of the Student Wellness Center, and I will be available to discuss and answer questions regarding the university's COVID-19 student vaccination mandate, as well as the MMR requirements and the meningitis vaccination response form requirement.
Awesome. Hold on, let me get back to that. And next on my screen is Tasha Rhodes.
good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tasha Rhodes, the Senior Registrar for the college, and I'm here to respond to and answer any question concerning WA grades and any registration questions or, anything directly related to the registrar's.
Awesome. And next will be Anita Ramarak. I hope I'm saying that name right.
Yes, you're saying it correct. Hi, everyone. My name is Anita Ramarak. I'm the Associate Director of Financial Aid Student Services, and I'm here to answer your financial aid related questions. Thank you.
Cool. Next in line will be Stephen Trowbridge.
Hello, everybody. I'm Stephen Trowbridge. I'm the Director of Public Safety for the college. I hope I can answer your questions involving public safety and the coming onto campus. But as you're all aware, they continuously change, and we are doing our best to stay on top of them. And I'm sorry for the confusion at doors at times, but we just have to deal with what CUNY gives us.
Cool. And hi, Dory Clay. You're next up.
Sorry. Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Abigail.
You're very welcome. All right, and I guess after that would be Luis Venegas.
Hello, everyone. My name is Luis Venegas. I'm the college health and safety officer, and I'll be answering any questions. Yeah, I don't have the answer from you. I can do the research. I'll get back to you if I don't have any answers at this point.
All right, and following that will be our wonderful Dean of Arts and Sciences, Justin Vasquez-Portiz.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see you. And I'm going to follow Mr. Venegas's wording, which I thought was perfect. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can now, and any that I cannot, I will find out the answers and get back to you. Arts and Sciences includes English, math, the sciences, humanities, social science, AFR. So any questions that you have regarding our school's offerings, I'm happy to help address. Thank you. Oh, also, I want to mention that more of our colleagues in academic affairs would have been here, but I know that there's a student poster session happening concurrently. So we're juggling a couple of meetings at once.
Oh, wow. Okay, and it's always my honor to prop up my school. The Dean of Professional Studies, David Smith.
Thank you for inviting me, Abigail. It's my pleasure to be here. As always, we're here for the students, and the best way we can serve the students is to understand what your concerns and your joys and your fears and everything are. So we're happy to be here to have this discussion, and I will also repeat, and maybe we won't need to say it anymore. Questions we cannot answer right now. We will do research and get back to you if the questions are answerable. Thank you.
Cool. With that being said, all the questions, type your questions in the chat, but a good amount of you also sent them when you registered for that event. So we'll also constructively pick from those questions as well. Make sure your questions, whichever way, are respectful. We want to have a pretty good session and get as much answered and as much cleared up as possible. With that being said, I would like to temporarily turn the mic over to Kevin Dugan, who will give a short spiel on NYPIRG and the higher education action they have coming up.
Yes, thanks so much, Abigail, and thank you so much for giving me the time, everyone, and thanks for joining today. Again, my name is Kevin Dugan, and I'm with NYPIRG. We're the student advocacy group at CityTech and all across the CUNY and SUNY system. I want to talk to you really quickly about the struggles that not only CityTech students are facing, but what students are facing all across New York State and how we can improve the student experience for students, faculty, and staff. For everyone that doesn't know, NYPIRG is the largest student-directed not-for-profit organization in the state. And we fight for social change on issues that impact us all directly, including fixing the MTA, climate change, and having a fully funded CUNY and SUNY system. Last year, we were able to work with faculty and staff members to get tuition freeze and increased funding for mental health services at CUNY and SUNY campuses. Right now, I'm going to share 2 links in the chat really quickly. The first is a petition for a student-friendly budget that will improve funding for schools across the state. I'll explain that in just a few seconds. And the second link is a network card that you can fill out to stay involved with all of the work that we're doing on campus this semester, next semester, and going forward. And as I'm sure you all know, that since the COVID pandemic began, the burden on students and colleges has been immense. Students have experienced job loss, financial hardship, and the growing toll on all of our mental and physical health. Even before the pandemic, however, years of stagnated state funding and the ever-increasing tuition and other costs of attending school and being a student has made it worse and worse for students all across New York. And as we work as a society to recover from the pandemic, it's vital that we don't return to a status quo in higher education. When CUNY was started, it was designed to be a college for all, to ensure that costs would never be a barrier to higher education. We at NYPIRG have launched a petition to urge Governor Hochul to include a student-friendly provisions in her budget proposal this January. We're asking to increase school funding to support smaller class sizes, more mental health resources, lower student to advisor ratios, and more. We also need to adequately fund student opportunity programs and ensure that other student support services like on-campus childcare and combating food insecurity are funded and helping students that need it the most. Right now, fill out those 2 links that I dropped in the chat before. I'm going to drop them in the chat again. Again, fill out that petition and make sure to fill out the network card. And thank you so much for your time, everyone. Any questions, please email me at the address that I'm dropping in the chat as well. And thank you for your time, everyone.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Very important stuff. And just in the moment, Dean Shields has just joined us. Would you like to give a short introduction, Dean Shields, and maybe even how long are you going to be here?
Absolutely. I'm joining for approximately 15 minutes. And the reason why is I'm incredibly excited to see so much happening in terms of workforce development and our relationship with the New York City metropolitan area. So actually, I'm very excited. I was just on a call. I just hopped off with a colleague from the Pratt Institute, and we're currently working with them to set up the research yard at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. And so many of you live in the Brooklyn area. More than half of our students hail from Brooklyn. And I've also now learned that over 90% of our students come from the boroughs. So this is all within reach for all of our students. And we're trying to emphasize the ability for students to have access to the different industries. You have so much opportunity when you're here at CityTech to learn about the different disciplines, but often you don't really get to see it in practice until you start that internship or start that first job, where we're hoping to bring the Navy Yard to your door so that you can begin to see what are the different opportunities, not only within your discipline, but you may find that there's different interactions or different interdisciplinary opportunities that you might find. And in particular, we see in the School of Tech and Design 3 real main areas of opportunity for our students. One is anything related to climate resiliency and remote sensing. How can we make this world a better place? How can we make it more equitable for all so that resources are available, such as the most basic, such as water? Or the term cobots, you know, the I forget how to actually say, co-inhabiting bots, where they work with you on the manufacturing floor, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and these straddle so many different disciplines, from entertainment to media to being in a mechanical engineering student, and how do you work with robotics to create devices that are so fine, so precision based, that are in the medical industry, provide accessibility, prosthetics for our students. There's also, I'm forgetting the last one, digital building fabrication and performance, our architectural students, construction management, facilities management students, and our civil engineering students are all interacting in the built environment, and how can we make our buildings perform more efficiently. And again, I don't know how many of you know this, but there is local law 97 in New York City, which by 2025, I believe it is going to require all buildings to be sustainable and to be resilient. And if they're not, there's going to be, you know, economic repercussions for those that own these buildings. So our students are in a position to be able to help people create more sustainable structures that are better for the environment and that are more functional and efficient to live in and cost us less to inhabit. So there's so much opportunity, Abigail, and I want to thank you for allowing me to join today. And I'm happy to take any questions that anyone might have, but I'm excited to see that people are back on campus. Again, the Voorhees building is open, it's active. We see students coming into the studios, into the laboratories, and we're just looking forward to seeing more of that happen in every corner of the campus. So I'm excited that we're all here today. I'm excited that you'll be coming back to campus. We miss you. I know our faculty, every time they have an in-person class, say, this is why I teach, because I want to be with the students. I want to work with them. So thank you, Abigail. Thank you to all of you in SGA for your diligence over this year. I know it's particularly challenging when you're working remotely and your collaboration, but I want to thank you for creating this town hall today.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure, especially with the student body being what it is and how many concerns are out there. It was just something I needed to do and had to do. So I think we can start to get to a few questions. I'll try and direct them to particular people as they're asked, but you know, anyone can basically chime in as long as we're not speaking over each other and like try and answer them. So first of all, and I think this would go more to the deans, although I can see like maybe security might also have a say in this. Arifis McBroom asked, how will the new policies affect lab hours and social distancing in the labs? So like, anyone have any? Go ahead.
I can do a little bit about that. So again, things will change. And again, I know it's a moving target to a degree, but we've had over the past semester, the current social distancing requirement is that there is no social distancing because students are vaccinated or those that have a medical accommodation are being tested on a very regular basis, on a weekly basis. So the way our laboratories are often set up is that just by nature of the equipment we're working with, we are often socially distant by default. So the spacing and the original class size limits that we've had, we maintained them over this semester, and we plan to maintain them in the spring as well. And as you can see, we've had very, I am not even aware of any instances of transmission within our school. And because of the ability for people to maintain that distance naturally because of where they're working. I know some of the departments have issued additional protocols for cleaning, where if I know in entertainment technology, for example, before students utilize tools, they wipe them down themselves to ensure that they've been cleaned and then they use them. So additional measures have been taken in the different departments to enhance a sterilization and disinfection for our students, and just doing our part where everyone is, you know, wearing their masks throughout campus. And these are the protocols that we currently have in place. And again, I would expect them to continue unless we have some additional guidance from CUNY or the CDC.
All right, and I guess Dean Smith and Dean Vasquez-Ortiz, same question.
Sure. One aspect of our reopening plan is that we also have a reclosing plan, which hopefully we won't have to use, but it goes to show that we consider all possible scenarios in our planning. And maybe unfortunately, we've gotten quite good, I think, at responding to different changes on the ground. Now, the trickiest scenario, I think, is in between opening and closing, and that is if we have to have social distancing in classes. And if that's the case, then we might have to use some creative ideas, such as high flex classrooms that allow some students to be online and others to be in person, or splitting up classes into multiple cohorts and then using multiple rooms for them. So, you know, we're certainly looking at all possibilities as we plan for the spring semester. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, as they say.
And I'll jump in for School of Professional Studies. It's a little different in my stack because we've actually been in clinical face-to-face activity since the beginning of the pandemic, not counting the first spring semester, but starting in the fall semester. And in the summer of 2020, we were back and our labs and our clinical places were in place. So that will not change. The difference may be in some of the fact that many of the courses that we were teaching fully online are now also going to be taught face-to-face, particularly in the clinical programs. That being said, I'm very pleased with the rigor and the attention to cleanliness and distancing guidelines and things like that are in place in our labs. I mean, I'll point out that these are healthcare students, and so they're already used to the idea of wearing PPE. We have many of our faculty are experts in infection control from before, so I feel very comfortable that our clinical spaces will continue to be safe and we will be able to deliver instruction effectively. The one change that will happen is that as distancing is relaxed, we will be able to go back to a normal size of class. Our dental hygiene program had to accept fewer students this academic year because of the social distancing requirements, meant we could only use half of our lab chairs at a time. We are hopeful that we'll be able to get back to the same size of a cohort as we move into the fall. And that's what I'm going to say. Thank you.
All right, that sounds pretty good. Luis Venegas, did you have anything to add to that?
Well, honestly, this is a moving target, as you all know. As a new guidance issued by CUNY, as the dean mentioned, there's no distancing in the classroom setting, meaning labs and classrooms. However, these have to be kept outside the classrooms, especially for those unvaccinated. And the limit for the spring semester for office space is going to be about 70%. So it's going to be about 3 days a week or so for most people to come. So I just want to wait to see what happens with this new variant, to see if something changes, but my sense is that it won't change anything. But we have to wait. I have a meeting tomorrow with CUNY. Yes, tomorrow, yeah, to see what they say, but I don't think the goals won't change as of now for the spring semester.
Awesome. I think the next question, it probably affects the schools as well specifically, but I think this impacts every department in that, do we have policies in the event someone actually does test positive? I guess
Louis, you want to take that one, or you want me to
Well,
answer?
I'm going to just do it overall. So when somebody tested positive for COVID, it depends if the student or the faculty member or the staff. So Eric is involved with students, and HR, Victor, who is now in the meeting, will get involved with any staff or faculty member. But the first thing is to send the information to areas, if a student, to complete the form, so we can know who is a close contact of the individual. And then after that, what triggers is the person that is positive has to be away for 10 days. And the person that's close contact, if it's vaccinated, is 3 to 5 days off campus, and they tested PCR and come back to classes, but within 3 to 5 days. If the person is not vaccinated, is a full quarantine period of 10 days. And again, present a PCR test to return to campus. The very important thing about this is that we need to know on the spot, as soon as you get the information, either a faculty member or a student, to let us know, to Aries and myself and Victor from HR, to see who the person is, because I have to also report this to CUNY, and I have to call the DOH, New York City DOH, just to put the report in for the tracing, because we do a small tracing in the college, but the city is really the one that contact the positive individual and does all the tracing, because they have the tools to do it. So we do unlimited tracing in the college, and they would do it in the college and outside the college for anybody who was in contact with that individual.
So I just want to add, as Louis said, and as I mentioned earlier, I handle this for students. It is very important that we know as soon as someone either tests positive or as soon as someone is notified that they are close contact. But the information needs to be submitted through the COVID-19 exposure reporting form. That is the way that I need to be notified. Notification through email can sometimes delay the process because I get a large volume of emails. But when the COVID-19 exposure reporting form is completed, I get an email, a notification automatically, myself and the other stakeholders who are Louis Venegas, to Chief Trowbridge, the members of HR who handle the faculty and employees. So that's the way the notification should come. Doing it through email delays the process because with the volume of emails that's received, it's hard to decipher which email is about someone reporting that they're positive, which email is regarding someone who is having trouble uploading their vaccination verification, or if someone is having an issue accessing campus. So if anyone needs to report that they've tested positive or they've been identified as a close contact, they must complete the COVID-19 exposure reporting form to notify me regarding students. That is the way that it has to be done. That would allow the process to start, to make sure that everything is done. So that's the short version. Okay, I'm going to drop the link to the form in the chat because there's a process. Once we're notified, once the student completes the form, then based on the information in the form, that lets us know what needs to be done with regard to our on-campus contact tracing. It also provides Louis with the information that he needs to be able to notify CUNY and to notify the Department of Health that we've had an exposure on campus. So you must complete the exposure reporting form, and I'm going to put the link in the chat now. The other thing is that Louis mentioned a lot of information about how long you have to stay away from campus, but once that form is completed, you will get a letter from myself or a member, you'll get an email from myself or a member of my team detailing the information, whether or not you are positive and you have to isolate, or if you have been notified that you are close contact and you have to quarantine, because there's a different procedure for each one of those situations.
Right, and I guess it would go to like anyone else, including the deans, if they had anything to add to that.
I can just add briefly. The biggest thing is that you want to be as prompt as possible, to let her know as soon as possible, so that way we can communicate as soon as possible. It's not necessary for you to initially, although Aries, do you recommend that someone inform their instructors, or at least as a courtesy?
Yes, so once I get the form, the email, the first thing it says is that, thank you for notifying the college. And if you have not already done so, please notify your professors, because it is important that your professors know. Whether you were on campus or were not on campus, you testing positive for COVID could affect you academically. So even if somebody is in an online only class and they report there may be a time that they have to come to campus for something, or their professor needs to know that they may be unable to do work because they're not well. So I always advise the students to notify all of your professors that you've either tested positive or you've been identified as a close contact, because you don't know what the effect is going to be and whether or not the student may or may not need to do anything else academically.
And the reason why I wanted to ask Aries is because one thing, and again, please confirm that I have this correct, is that while it's advised that you inform any faculty of your situation, just like you would if you were sick for any reason or injured or if something happened, you want to let them know so that way they can work with you. And I know there was a question in the chat to say, would we still have access to our courses? If there is the ability where the content is available via Blackboard or Open Lab and you can readily access it and you're physically capable to do so, you're in good enough health to do so, that's one option. If for some reason, say in the nursing program or in other programs where a physical in-person requirement such as a laboratory or clinical is required, that's why you put the faculty member on notice, because they will work with you to accommodate you and make any adjustments that are necessary. But one thing I did want to point out is that it is not necessary in your email, and nor should you send medical documentation to a faculty member. If that's necessary, Ms. Jones will ask you for that information.
Yeah, you should not. All you need to do is notify your faculty member that you tested positive and you've completed the form. But what I will say is that if there's a student that needs an accommodation, those accommodations, because they've tested positive and they're unable to access their coursework, those accommodations are handled through the Center for Student Accessibility. That is the office on campus that handles accommodations. So if someone tests positive and needs some type of accommodation, some type of assistance with their work, that would be the office that they will contact regarding.
Awesome. All right, I think the next question is mostly directed to the deans, though if anyone else had information on it, they're more than welcome to chime in. But Marisol asked, are there any online lab options? I guess for a point for classes that don't necessarily require in person. For example, a programming class could be done mostly through online. So I'll go right ahead.
I'm happy to
Jill.
take that one. I also know my time is limited, so I'm shooting at all I have. So I can speak in terms of tech and design, but I know there's some similarity amongst the different schools. So remember the goal of any modality of instruction, whether it's in person, hybrid, or online, is that it needs to be pedagogically sound. Is that the idea is that however you're being instructed as we move out of the pandemic, it should be in a modality that offers the best learning outcomes for you. Now, there are some courses where this would be best done in person and completely in person. And there are some courses where you can do this entirely online, or there's some courses that are in between. And what you'll probably see, depending on the different departments, is that they're trying to offer the modalities as much variety as they can for a particular course. And even though we're trying to move and our goal is a 70% in person, our president has said over and over that we are going to go based on what the needs of the students are and and the learning that needs to occur. So that's how I want to put it. So you can always engage your departments, especially we're going to be looking at the enrollments very carefully to see what kind of response you are giving in terms of, are you enrolling in in-person classes? Are you enrolling in online only? Do you have an interest in hybrid? And we're going to try to respond with additional courses if necessary, based on your needs. So I just want to state that it's a balance of trying to find the balance based on what works for you, but also and we're leaving this to our faculty who are the experts, what is the best way to deliver that instruction? So hopefully that answers that question.
And if I could just jump in, I agree with everything Gerard just said. Most importantly, I think, is the fact that we recognize that there are multiple different modalities of instruction now. We recognize that different modalities work better for different people for a variety of reasons. And we certainly want to handle as large a population of students as possible. In addition, we've learned an awful lot over the last 2 years about online instruction. We have been delivering face-to-face instruction for thousands of years now, in online instruction for a very short time, and totally online instruction for only about a year and a half. During this time, when we look at the different types of technologies that are coming out, the additional infrastructure that has been put in place, what this means is it makes us a much better laboratory to continue to learn and combine these in very interesting ways. I'm particularly excited about, and it may not end up being this model, but ideas such as the high flex model, where you're allowed to have classes where you have both people that are physically there as well as people that are attending remotely. The more that we can take advantage of the more modern technologies and communications, take advantage of the advantages that online education provides, I think the stronger of an education we can provide. Of course, change happens all the time. You're part of the change. Bear with us as we continue to chug along the road of progress here. But I'm convinced that we're now starting to, if not we will never be back to the way it was before, but we're starting to get to the point where we have to think about what it is, how it is that we want to be as we come back. And that's sort of the next task that the college has. And in fact, I would say all of, the entire country has, is how do we return, and how do we return in the best way possible, and what will the new normal be? So that might be a slightly larger viewpoint than what the question had, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a flavor of at least what my thinking is in the background about what's going on.
Yeah, and if I could add, one of our overarching principles is to provide the maximum number of options for students without compromising the learning outcomes. And so you'll notice that depending on what type of laboratory class you're talking about, there's the variety of the percentage of online versus in person. For example, with biology labs, in-person hands-on activity is critical. Otherwise, you really don't gain much from taking a biology lab that doesn't allow you to practice pipetting skills, for example. And so just about all of our biology labs are in person. Whereas as you go down the line to computer programming labs, you'll notice that most of them have online modality associated with them. So those differences really represent the learning outcomes that we're supposed to be teaching you.
Awesome. And Matthew, you had a few questions off the chat.
Oh, I had a alumni reach out on the school's Instagram account, and he's asking if in the spring semester if he could return, or are you guys not allowing that yet? I would say this would be for Lewis directly.
Can you repeat the question? I didn't hear the question, please.
On the school's Instagram account, a alumni reached out and he asked if he could return in the spring semester. Is that allowed yet?
Who wants to return because of what? I'm sorry.
A alumni wants to visit the school.
Okay.
Is he allowed to yet?
He wants to visit as a visitor?
Yes.
Oh yeah, he can come in as a now. Well,
okay.
There's a visitor guidance. You have to be approved. Anybody who come to the campus have to either be vaccinated, or for visitors, fully vaccinated, or have a negative COVID PCR test within the last 7 days. And they were allowed to come in to campus. Had to be approved, but yeah. Is that clear?
Yes, and another question is, for students that get the random testing, would it do genetic testing for any sort of variant, or would they just test for COVID?
Just, I believe, I'm not sure about that, but I know the CDC is going to increase the surveillance for the new variant, but the regular. So when you get the results, you're gonna say positive COVID or not. I guess they do more research and they can find out what variant it is, but it doesn't matter at this point. Is it positive or not?
All right.
I think, well, with regard to random testing, they're going to be administering the same test that they administer now. So the tests have not, as to date, the tests has not been adjusted for the new variant. So whatever is the current test that's being administered, that is the same test that's going to be used for random testing.
Okay, that worked good. I think that was pretty awesome, actually. Adriana wrote in, she was curious how this was going to impact the attendance for winter and summer classes, which I think is a legitimate question and one like being talked over in this case. Any responses?
Well, when you say how this is going to impact attendance, can you specify what are you referring to as this?
Right. So how our current like policies and how the current structure of how classes have been and will impact the registration and attendance of both winter and summer classes, which based on the way they're structured are usually not treated the same, meaning will we come back with in-person classes for those 2 semesters? Will they be online? Will they be hybrid? What are we looking at?
Well, for one, oh,
Go ahead, Tasha. You have much more information than I do about this.
So for the winter session, winter will be currently using the current mode of instructions, which will be a mix. But for summer, we have not yet begun working on that. We are currently in progress and currently working on summer. And once more guidance is received, we will create the schedules accordingly and build the schedule of classes accordingly. But summer is not yet posted. As more information, as it becomes available, it will be shared.
And I'll just also point out that one of the things that we're trying to do here is to respond appropriately to student desire in terms of the modality. So we're prepared to pivot. If more students want online courses, we'll offer more online courses. If more students are wanting face-to-face courses, then we'll push more in that particular direction. So in a way, even though we're planning for as many eventualities as possible, what is going to determine this proportion is what you do, what courses you sign up for. So what I'd recommend also is to sign up for courses early if possible. And I believe also, Tasha, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're offering the summer registration much earlier this cycle than we ever have in the past. Is that right?
Correct. We definitely plan on making the schedule and opening up registration earlier. The goal is to get it up and have it available early March. I don't quote me on those dates yet or the time because anything is subject to change, but we are looking to increase enrollment and to advertise our summer course offerings at a much earlier date than we had in the past.
And I can answer the question about winter classes from the point of view of arts and sciences. Keep in mind that the winter session is quite special. It's only 3 weeks long. It's not long enough to have laboratory-based science classes. So in that sense, most of the arts and sciences classes are going to be online in the winter. There are some in person. It's driven by learning outcomes, as we've mentioned before. When it comes to the summer, we'll be responding based on learning outcomes as well as what the students need as well.
Awesome. And I think that sort of plays into one question asked by, and I'm sorry if I don't say this name right, Fatma Said. If they have an option to take classes online, meaning they will have in-person classes, but will they have an option to take online alternatives during the during the upcoming spring semester?
Yeah, so again, this depends on the learning outcomes and what's needed to accomplish those. So for something like a biology lab class or allied health clinicals, in-person classes tend to be a must. Whereas other types of classes, such as say psychology or English composition, will offer both in-person, online, as well as some hybrid.
I guess Dean Smith, if you had a.
Well, I would pretty much just reflect what Justin just said. I'll say that we're trying within the context of the learning outcomes to recognize that we want to offer as many modalities as possible, and that we will continue to sort of push the learning outcomes in ways that will help us to be able to offer them in all modalities. And when I say push the outcomes, I don't mean change the outcomes, but change the way that the outcomes are delivered. Overall, I think that the important thing that we need to look at as well is that we are also now have some degree programs which are fully online. In other words, a student may register for the program and take every single course within that online. That would also include any of the general education courses, the liberal arts courses, which means that every student that's fully online or takes advantage of a fully online option, and there are just a few of these degrees, but I anticipate there'll be more, just the nature of the way things are going, that they must be able to take all of the required coursework for their degree programs. This means that any required general education course, such as English 1101, will always need to have some number of online courses. It doesn't necessarily mean that every single individual in society course, for example, however, is. We're not saying if you're online that you can take any course whatsoever. We are saying that you can take the necessary courses that are needed in order to fulfill your degree and take that fully online.
And perhaps I could add another comment to this. As was emphasized before, we are responding to enrollment trends. Just to give a case study, in English composition, so far 33% of the students have registered for online sections, whereas 63% have registered for in-person. Now, if you dissect that a bit, it looks like we will be needing more online sections of the second English composition class. And so again, we respond to those enrollment trends. And so if you're looking for something online and you don't see it quite yet, it might mean that we're in the process of rolling out more sections. Now, the other possibility is we are within a university-wide system of CUNY, and there is the e-permit process. So, I would say contact your program director or your dean, and we can help you. If we don't offer a particular class with a particular modality of what you need at CityTech, then we'll help you find other options.
Okay, and I think the one of the last questions I just saw from McCrubin, I believe was the name. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Is pertinent to our current condition. So a lot of students have been struggling with the online courses, and coming out of that, we'll find a lot more of the students failing, actually not passing those classes. So their question was if they don't pass a class this semester, how will that impact them? And I think that's a good question because it hits on a number of issues, including financial aid, which, as you're aware, if you fail a class technically on financial aid, you can't retake it. So,
Okay, I'll chime in. Okay, so yes, if you, unfortunately, if you do not successfully pass a course this semester, I would always recommend that you repeat the course. Now, this will have an impact on your financial aid. However, you should always, you have to repeat the course, especially if it is a required course for your major. Also, if you do repeat it, you may benefit from the repeat policy. where you may be able to pound out the initial grade that you have earned and only count the grade, the passing grade. I'll try to put it in the chat, the policy that's in the course catalog. And all students can benefit from this policy for up to 16 credits. So I definitely recommend that you definitely take advantage of this particular policy, because you want to make sure that your GPA stays at least at a 2.0 or above, really should be above, so that you don't run the risk of being placed on academic probation and ultimately getting dismissed if it's not addressed. So that's my commentary on that. So I don't know if the deans would like to chime in. I mean, I do know that there's a lot of resources that many of the courses instructors have offered students to to help support them through, for their coursework. Also, you may have the option of withdrawing from a class if you're not passing. You have up until Monday, December 13th, to withdraw from a class, and this will prevent you from getting a failing grade. Also, you should note that there has been a change that WU grades are no longer a punitive grade, but that to be eligible for a WU grade, that's a whole nother conversation. But just look for as many alternatives as you can to try to prevent yourself from getting a failing grade in the class. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, I think Ms. Rhodes provided a good summary. One thing I'd like to add is that it's important to assess throughout the semester how you're doing in the class. And as Ms. Rhodes pointed out, you do have until right before the final exam week begins to withdraw from the class without academic penalty. Another option, if you have about 20% or less of the work remaining to be completed, then another option might be an incomplete if it's a time element that would be causing you to be failing. That's something that you would have to discuss with your instructor before the semester ends. So that communication is important. And as Ms. Rhodes pointed out, if you repeat the class and you get a C or higher, then up to those 16 credits, that F will no longer contribute to your GPA.
Yes.
Awesome. And I mean, if anyone else wants to chime in, feel free. Okay. I think the next question mostly applies to administration and maybe a few other departments, but mask requirements. How will they apply? And I think also as far as like supplying masks and like sanitizer to students on campus to like impact the current requirements for like health and safety.
So the question is who supplies the mask? Can you repeat the question? It's kind of
Sure. Okay. First of all, it's how will mask requirements be applied on campus? That's one. And two, how will the campus support those requirements? For example, providing mask and hand sanitizer throughout the buildings is two.
So this is for the students, I assume, or for
Yes,
staff?
for the students.
Okay. So for the students, so in the past, and it will be, I guess, in the future, I get requests from departments to purchase supplies that they need on the COVID code, and I purchase them. In addition to that, we're expecting a donation from CUNY. So we should have enough masks, hand sanitizer, and wipes for the spring semester. So first of all, before coming to campus, you have to wear the mask. So most people, even the subway, you have to wear the mask. Unless it breaks, and guess we can replace them inside the school, we have replacement. Yeah, so we have, the supplies that the students need for the classes, I believe. So I get requests, and we have purchased multiple supplies for everybody.
Yeah, I'll agree with Luis that at least within my departments, and I'm sure this is true across the others, that the departments are aware of the social distancing, disinfection, as well as PPE requirements for their particular programs. Each program works it out with their students. I believe some of my programs we're paying for it. Nursing, for example, they require N95 masks for the clinicals, not KN95 or surgical. They have to have a very specific type. It has to be fit tested. So we're not asking the students to go through that particular expense. We're paying for that. But the way that our society is going on right now, I would imagine many of the students will have masks. We're just, we're used to that. You have to have it on the subway. You have to have it to get into many places. It's still something that's going to be part of our culture and our fashion sense on some level. And of course, I'm sure that if a student or someone that is coming in doesn't have a mask at a particular time, we'll provide it. I would not expect that to be something like, well, I don't need a mask because I'll get one every day when I go to CityTech. But of course, we'll make sure that everyone is in compliance when they're in the building.
If I can add something to that, public safety has masks at all the doors. So people that do come to campus, because as we see walking around the city right now, less and less people are wearing masks. So we will provide them, like the Dean just said, on like an emergent basis. Like, we don't have a supply to give them to them every day. And the hand sanitizer, there's hand sanitizer stations, have been installed all over the campus right now. So, from what I've seen by walking around, there's plenty of them. What I will ask from everybody in this group right now is, I don't want public safety. I will not have them become the mask police. So if everybody can get the word out to your departments and the student body that the requirements are to wear a mask, and if that changes, we will relay it. But I don't really want any more conflict between public safety and, the student, staff, and faculty.
Absolutely. A brilliant follow-up to that is, and I think it's partly based on what was brought up earlier. The student asked, given the current rise of new variants, what's the policy for re-shutdown if we need to do it? And how will this differ from what we did before?
It hasn't changed. The policy is the policy. COVID is COVID. I mean, the variant doesn't do anything to the policy. It might, at some point, we don't know yet what's going to happen with the variant, how hard it's going to hit New York City. I guess at some point, CUNY may have some adjustments on, occupancy, classroom settings, don't know. But so, as of now, everything's the same as before, as 2 weeks ago.
And to jump in on that, I think maybe the question is not necessarily about policy, but implementation. In other words, no matter what the policy is, if CUNY shuts us down and we have to go back to fully online in the way that we did in spring of 2020, how will we do that? And we've already done it once. We had to do that transition in 5 days back in March of 2020. And we all have much more experience now in terms of what that means, both as students and as faculty and as administrators. So the point is, we don't want to have to get shut down, but we have to recognize that it is a possibility. Who knows what's going to happen? And so all of the departments are, at least in the back of their head, making the contingency plans. All faculty have already delivered their coursework in an online way and have had a couple of years to think about how they might be able to improve that. All students have experience now with online courses, whether you like it or not, you have experience with it. And so I think if we have to get back into an emergency situation, we'll be able to do it much more effectively than we did last time.
I would echo Dean Smith and say we've spent the last year and a half learning how to be an online institution at all levels. And, from the role of a dean to the role of a student, we take that learning with us if we have to go online again. My concern isn't whether we would be able to do it, because we have and we would again. My concern is the sacrifice of in-person related learning outcomes that would come with that.
That sounds pretty good. And I would like to remind people just for this moment to stay respectful in the chat. I know no one's gone truly overboard, but I've seen a few problematic comments. And I'd like to remind everyone we're here to find solutions. So just keep that in mind going forward. Okay, so what another student actually asked something in reference to classes, but theirs was sort of a modified question about the online options. So for like classes that have, I'm trying to think of how to frame it, they would usually be considered in-person labs, but they can be done virtualized. For example, when you're putting virtual circuits together or doing virtualized chemistry labs, how would that be reflected in the upcoming spring semester? Sorry.
Well, we've learned quite a bit on what can be done virtually when it comes to laboratory learning experiences. And in fact, we've purchased a software package called Labster that we're currently using for some virtual chemistry labs. In the case of physics, we're piloting some classes that use iPhones to do physics experiments that can be done at home. So we're certainly wanting to keep the gains that we've made when it comes to online teaching techniques, but we don't want to lose that in-person experience. And so in that sense, I would say, once again, it's the learning outcomes that help us determine what is in the best interest of the students.
And Dean Smith?
I'm sorry, I was trying, I lost track because I'm reading what's going on in chat, and I was about to respond to Lola's about culinary classes, which culinary classes are one of the clinical environments which we feel is necessary for students to be in person. Hospitality did a lot of culinary, online culinary, just does not work when students need to work within a professional kitchen in the context of delivering food under a target deadline within a period of time and delivered effectively, and that everyone gets their food hot. This just cannot happen within an environment at home when you can't even guarantee that students have a mixer. So those courses are going to be all face-to-face in the spring. What we are looking at, however, is a recognition that we might want to change some of the degree program within hospitality. There are a lot of culinary requirements, and we're recognizing that many of the students aren't necessarily interested in culinary. And so we're looking at making some course modifications to allow students more choice. If you're not training to be a chef, maybe you don't need to take as many culinary courses. There might be other options for you.
Oh, cool. And I see our time's running out, so I'll put this one last question out there. So as far as like a lot of students, and I'm guilty of this, I'll say it, are guilty of like getting into this online experience, and we become very much like used to it. So changing back to the mode of like getting out there and going into public transportation, etc., is going to be a huge shift for a lot of us back. I'm curious, like, how do you see planning to accommodate this during the spring? Like, class schedules, anything?
Yeah, one thing I would suggest is don't have the first day of your spring semester be the time that you're getting used to that shift for the first time. And I can say this from my own experience. I mean, one thing we can agree upon is that we're all human beings. And so we all, experience that similar type of shift. And in my case, it was quite an experience when I had to come back on campus last spring to do the graduation recordings. The thing that I found actually is that it was weird at how not weird it felt. It really actually felt quite comfortable for me coming back to campus. And maybe it's because there weren't all that many people there at that time. But something that we've been emphasizing to faculty as well is try coming back to campus now. Check out your offices, make sure your office computers work. That way, if we use these next couple of months to prepare for the spring semester, that minimizes the surprises that we'll get once the semester actually begins. So that's my advice for faculty and students alike.
And I think for students, since this is mostly a student town hall, I think an important thing is to make sure that you're not going to the front door of the building on your first day without making sure that you can get into the building or not. It may be worthwhile to make sure. Stephen, I noticed there were some questions from students saying, how do I get my ID so I can make sure I can come into it? Is that possible? You might be able to respond to that?
Sure. I'm just using my mobile device, so I'm hard to keep up with the chat.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to, because I think that's an important question and you're the man that would know the best answer to that.
The ID station hours are now limited to just one day. We had it at 2 days, but honestly, nobody was showing up. I've already discussed it. As far as the spring semester, I plan to open probably about 8 days before the first day of our spring semester. And we'll be open 5 days a week and take that into the first week of the semester. And I've also been accommodating to various departments and classes that needed, like especially the clinicals that needed to go outside the campus. So we can open up, but unfortunately I'm extremely short-staffed. So every time I open, I got to bring an officer on overtime. So I can't just have them sit there doing nothing. But if I'm contacted and say, hey, listen, I have 25 people that are coming in tomorrow, I will make arrangements and they can get an ID that day. But besides from that, the hours are going to go up on the website. And like I said, I plan to open about almost 2 weeks prior to the beginning of the spring semester so that we don't have the rush and then take it into maybe the end of the first week of the spring semester.
Great.
Stephen, will the station be open next week?
Will the what?
Will it be open next week?
Yes, it's open Tuesday. It's open on Tuesdays right now.
Tuesday from when till when?
I believe 9 a.m. to basically like 4 p.m. and they just take a lunch.
Okay.
Yeah. Scaled it back, so it's on the website.
Right. So for people that want it next week, Tuesday, 9 to 4, except at lunch. And that's in the main NAM building. So you would go to the Tillery Street entrance. I guess what you do, Steve, to get your ID, you have to do something because the students have to get through security and they don't have the ID.
They still have to have their Vax Pass, and they can either show a copy of their class schedule or something that proves that they are actually a student and are going to get an ID. But they should have their cleared for anyway. And I'm sure most of you are aware that right now we're working on something with CIS. We just upgraded the Linnell system, that's the card access. So hopefully we're going to have the ID cards integrated with Clear for to eliminate that one step. Like anybody coming to campus with a valid ID and a valid Clear for, we'll just be able to scan their ID cards and keep moving.
Awesome.
Great. Yeah, we're excited about that too, because I can just imagine what the pileup will be if we all of a sudden are coming back to normalcy. I think Erica is next week. It's only Tuesday. I think Stephen said that the week before classes begin, it will be going on a 5-day-a-week. I think also though, if your department, for example, has a bunch of students that need to do this and you can arrange it so that it will work, then as Stephen said, they would be able to make an accommodation, but they couldn't do that for just 1 or 2 people. It would have to be enough people needing an ID card.
Right. If there's one person, one or two people, and it's an emergent case, like say
Yeah,
nursing
yeah.
programs and stuff that have to go to hospital, we can do it right from our office.
Mhm.
You know, unfortunately, I have to pull the officer off patrol or have the supervisor
Right.
do it. So I just can't have them doing the line because they have to respond to other things. You know, we're back to the elevator entrapments and we're back to the stuff that we dealt with before the pandemic.
Right.
So they have to stay free for that.
Yes. And Erica, there is no fee, I believe. There is no
Not
fee.
for the initial ID card.
Right.
If you lose your ID card, it's a $15 replacement fee.
There you go.
That's paid to the
All right.
purse off.
Yeah, I figured as much. So unfortunately, I think we've actually run out of time. That being said, so I want to give everyone a chance to have their closing remarks, starting with Aries. Any thoughts going forward?
I just want to remind students, I put some information in the chat with regard to the deadlines for submitting requests and submitting documentation for the winter and spring session. I know some of our students were in person or hybrid, so they may have already complied with the requirements and submitted their requests and documentation. But for those students who have not, I put it in the chat. I also would like to say that the CUNY main website, cuny.edu, has really the most up-to-date current information with regard to everything that's going on with the policy and the rules and the regulations. I'm going to drop the link in the chat so you can always check there. It's going to give you the most up-to-date information. If you have questions or concerns or issues regarding your COVID-19 vaccine verification, a request for a medical exemption, you're cleared for access, if you received a notice that your account was paused or any of those things, those inquiries should go to studentwellness@citytech.cuny.edu, and I'm going to drop that in the chat. I know that at times students will email multiple people. They'll email me, they'll email the Wellness Center at citytech.cuny.edu, they'll email Student Wellness. And what that does is that it creates additional emails. So if you email Student Wellness at citytech.cuny.edu, you will get a response. I know that there was a long period of time where students were emailing and they were not getting responses. And that is because when the policy was first implemented, I was the only person that was the college's location vaccine authority responsible for processing records and responding to emails. And the volume was more than I was able to handle. And that was in addition to my regular responsibilities. So it has taken some time for students to receive a response to emails, but the college did hire additional staff. And now we are processing the submissions for vaccine verification as they are submitted. So within a day or two, although the university gives us a 10-day time frame, we are up to the point now where we're processing them within a day or two. If it's over the weekend, then it may take a little bit longer. That processing time might take longer as we get closer to the spring semester, because more students will begin to submit documentation. But I don't know, somebody's not muted. Derby Desire, if you could please mute.
There she goes.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, so just want to let you know that all of those COVID-19 related questions should be emailed to Student Wellness. And you will get a more prompt response than you have gotten in the past because the college has hired additional staff to deal with this. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And next, Tasha Rhodes.
Hi, so I put the link to the registrar's office website for anyone that may have any additional questions or just need to refer or are looking for specific guidance. There's a lot of information that's noted there. So I invite you all to please take a look at the registrar's website. Also, you will find out how to get in contact with someone from the registrar's office, and you will be able to get in contact with me directly. Under the staff information, you will note my name as well as the full directory of the registrar's office. Thank you all.
Very awesome. And I will turn the mic over for closing remarks from Anita Ramarak.
Okay, hi everyone. So there's not much I could say, but that I dropped the link in the website to our financial aid office. Just keep in mind, we have Zoom hours there at your convenience. Please stop by and visit us if you have any questions. Right now, the wait to see a counselor is very short. So we do highly recommend you see us sooner than later, as things do pick up during the spring registration and towards the first day of class. So other than that, make sure you file your FAFSA for 2020, 2021. That is for the spring semester, and also file your FAFSA for the spring FAFSA is 21, 22. And then the 22, 23 FAFSA is also available for the fall of 2022. So keep in mind, everything's there on our website. And again, if you have any questions, we're here to help you, and have a great day.
Awesome. Stefan Trowbridge, any closing thoughts and comments?
Well, we just look forward to having everybody back, and I just ask everybody to be patient with public safety at the entrance points. Keep in mind that they have been working in person since the beginning. They would never remote. They're short-staffed, and they're dealing with the ever-changing rules and the complaints from people nonstop. And it's silliness. If they're helping one person, I get a nasty email about how long the person behind them waiting in line. So there's no win for us, but we're doing our best, and hope everybody's being safe and that we have a safe return.
That's all we can ask for, all the way around. And Dory Clay, are there any closing thoughts?
I wrote them. I put them in the chat. This was really an excellent town hall. Thank you, everybody, for the participation, the students. The questions were great. We'll try to find a way to use the questions and anticipate in our new FAQ page that Enrollment and Student Affairs is creating. So thank you very much.
Cool. Louis Venegas, any closing thoughts on the matter?
Yes, so first, please get vaccinated and get the booster. If you feel ill, don't come to campus. Get tested before you come in, so nobody gets sick as well. And I'm here to help. Whenever you have any questions, just let me know. I'm coming to campus like 3 times a week, 4 times a week, so I'm here a lot. That's all.
All right, that's great. And yeah, definitely get vaccinated and stay safe. So unfortunately, Dean Shields had to leave early. So we won't be able to have her closing thoughts, but next up, Dean Vasquez Portiz.
Thanks. I won't be surprised if when some of you click that leave button, you'll realize, oh, there was a question I wanted to ask. Or maybe in the next month or so, there might be questions or issues that we could help you with. CityTech is a large system, it's a complex system, and one of the jobs of a dean is to help students know which office to go to for help. So if you don't know who to turn to, then you can always turn to us. In fact, both Dean Smith and I posted our emails in the chat if you look at the time 2:03 p.m. So feel free to reach out as needed. And I look forward to seeing many of you in the spring semester. Thanks.
All right, and last but not least, the Dean of the School of Professional Studies, Dean Smith.
Thank you, Abigail, and everybody. I echo Dory. I think this was great. We should continue to do this particular type of an activity, and hopefully maybe next semester one of them can be done in the new theater, academic theater or something, because I'm so looking forward to seeing people's faces in the flesh as opposed to through the black box. It's great to see you here. It's great we have this technology, but at least at this time in our civilization, nothing beats the fact of people in a room together. And so that's what I'm looking forward to. I would echo what Justin said. If you continue to have questions, and in fact, I noticed that some questions were pouring in even during these last closing remarks. And I'm also sure that we may have missed some of the questions. So Abigail, you may want to maybe take a look at the text chat transcript and see if there are any questions that we missed. We're more than happy to answer them. And I agree that these types of town halls, when you ask these questions, that means other students who aren't here have these questions. And it's useful for us to learn what the questions are, because that helps us with our communication and our ability to deliver to you the best education that we can. So I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank SGA. I'm looking forward to an active SGA this year. And I, in particular, look forward to seeing some of you in the flesh in the spring. Thank you.
That sounds awesome. And yes, I definitely had the ability to save the chat, and I'll sort through it for like pertinent questions and make sure everyone gets a copy, so you can like acclimate even that into the fact. I think this will be great, ultimately speaking. All right, then I would like to wish everyone I'd like to wish everyone a good rest of their day. And if you still have classes you need to attend, good luck with those classes and good luck with upcoming finals.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day, great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right. So that room emptied out awfully fast.